Hi friends, welcome back to my news channel in Less Than 30 with Joanne Smith. So happy to have you back here with me today. We are going to get started in just a moment talking about last night's State of the Union address, but I just wanted to certainly thank you all for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, now is the time to subscribe. Go ahead and hit that button. Definitely tell your friends and family and share my YouTube page out there if you're enjoying the content. Okay, I want to break down the 1 hour, 1 minute, and 49 second speech last night in Less Than 30. So let's get going. Which, by the way, was one of the shortest speeches in history for State of the Union addresses on record. Now, President Joe Biden is not known normally for his brevity, but he did a great job. Okay, so fun fact, the longest State of the Union address was by no other than President Bill Clinton, and his speech was 1 hour and 28 minutes on January 27th of 2000. Clinton discussed many topics in his address, including education, health, crime, the global economy, technology, and the environment. Sounds like everything we talk about today. Okay, so any guesses on who had the shortest State of the Union address? Let me know in the comment section, and I will let you know at the end of the show, so stay tuned. Okay, let's get into Biden's speech. I'm going to walk you through the main points of the speech and also give you sort of a recap of what I thought his hits and misses were, because you know, no president is perfect. Everyone's going to have some hits and definitely some misses, so we'll talk about that as well. Also, we'll talk about some interruptions, which I can best describe as crows cackling in the audience at the president. Caw, caw. Oh my goodness. President Biden spent about 1/3 of his time and began his speech discussing the crisis in Ukraine. Of course, it's been on everyone's hearts and minds throughout the entire world. It's a huge topic of interest. President Biden put it well. He said that Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He also went on to say that Putin has rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. Biden continued speaking about Putin, saying he thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, and in this nation. And he thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready, we are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. Biden also said that they have been spending months building a coalition of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, Asia, and also Africa. So this tells me that they have known about this for some time. And I remember a few weeks ago when Biden said that Putin would be attacking Ukraine, that a lot of folks did laugh at him. So Biden continued saying that they had been building a coalition for months with other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, Asia, and Africa. So this tells me that we as a government have known about Putin's move for quite a while now. And we're also prepared to assist Ukraine. This is good news that our intelligence works. And not only was he correct, but I think it was planned for him to say that. I absolutely think that it wasn't him slipping and letting out intelligence. I mean, he's got over 40 years of experience, and that's just not something he's going to do. So we have the 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as UK, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand. I mean, even freaking Switzerland has chosen the side of Ukraine. So they are all inflicting pain points on Russia and supporting Ukraine. So what is everyone doing to help? So we are hitting them in their pocketbooks, cutting off Russia's largest banks from the international financial systems. It's actually going to prevent Russia's central bank from defunding the Russian ruble. Now, this will essentially make Putin's $630 billion worthless. Also, the U.S. Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of Russian oligarchs going after and seizing their yachts, their luxury apartments, and their private jets. Biden also announced that we are joining our allies in closing off Russian airspace to all Russian flights, which is further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy. Watch out, Poots. The ruble has already lost 30% of its value. Also, the Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is just reeling right now, and Putin alone is the one to blame. The U.S. is giving more than $1 billion to Ukraine to directly help with their assistance and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country. Biden made it very clear that our forces and troops will not be inside Ukraine fighting. In fact, saying our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in case Putin decides to go west. Biden also wants to set clear expectations about what is ahead with the Ukrainians, saying that the Ukrainians are fighting with pure courage, but the next few days, the weeks, and the months ahead are going to be hard on them. Phew. Who is hurting at the gas pump? Raise your hand. Let me know in the comments what you are paying per gallon. In Southern California, it's above $6 per gallon. It's really something that's really hurting everyone straight in their pocketbook. Biden has also said that he is working with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil reserves from around the world. So America will lead in that effort, releasing 30 million barrels from our own strategic reserve, petroleum reserve, and we will stand ready to release more if necessary and unified with our allies. So that's great news. Biden says that these steps will help blunt gas prices here at home, but that he knows that the news is about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. I always appreciate when President Joe Biden turns back into our Uncle Joe, and he goes on to say, but I want you to know that we are going to be okay. We are going to be okay. So we certainly hope that's the case, President Biden, Uncle Joe, because certainly everyone is feeling that pain at the pump, and hopefully the release of the oil reserves does help this country as far as gas prices and around the world. So I have to give some props to the Republicans that were cheering, and even stood up in applause with this segment of his speech with Ukraine, showing solidarity. I do believe that Putin was watching this speech to see how the Republicans were going to act. But that's unfortunately where the solidarity ended as far as the Ukraine speech. Should we talk about the peanut gallery of fools in the audience? While President Biden pivoted his speech and spoke about the economy, saying, unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the former administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan is helping working people and left no one behind. So, of course, we got some boos from the Pop-Tart queens, as I like to call them, from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. As per usual, with their unprofessional selves and very loud mannerisms, standing up and basically booing and jeering at the president during his speech, interrupting the chambers and booing and chanting and trying to get the other Republicans to chant "build the wall," and just being completely outrageous. They should have been thrown out. And did you guys see the tacky jacket that Boebert was wearing that said, "Drill, baby, drill"? Tacky. Biden, pretty much unfazed, went on to talk about the 6.5 new jobs that were created last year. And this was more jobs created in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America. So a lot to be definitely proud of. Now, in the discussion for the case of infrastructure, Biden reminded Americans that we used to be at the top. We used to have the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. Now, our infrastructure ranking is 13th in the world. Biden went on to push the bipartisan infrastructure law, thanking Republicans who joined to invest and rebuild America. It's going to be the single biggest investment in history. And as he stated, we are done talking about infrastructure week. We are now talking about an infrastructure decade. His goal is to fix 65,000 miles of highways and 1,500 bridges in the United States. Pretty hefty project. Next, the president went on to talk about the Bipartisan Innovation Act that's just sitting in Congress that needs to be signed. So he reminded us, we used to invest 2% of the GDP in research and development, and now we don't, but China does. So Intel, the American company that was key in building Silicon Valley, is going to build right outside of Columbus, Ohio, on 1,000 empty acres of land. It's $20 billion semiconductor mega site. So they are planning 8 new factories all in one place, creating 10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average salary is $135,000. Not too shabby. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip that power the world in everyday lives, from smartphones, the internet, technology we have yet to invent. Oh, and Biden had one last little surprise. He invited the Intel CEO, Pat Gelsinger, to be his guest. And Pat actually announced that his once $20 billion investment, he wants to increase it to $100 billion. I mean, that's just insane. This would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. Biden said he's just waiting for Congress to put it on his desk for him to sign. He wants to make his plan pretty plain, and he thinks the better idea to fight inflation is to lower our costs, not our wages. So that means making more cars and semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation. And here's his plan. He wants to first cut the cost of prescription drugs like insulin. 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes, and insulin costs $10 a vial to make. That's what it costs the pharmacy company. It's only $10 a vial to make, but as you know, drug companies charge 30 times as much for the consumer. One of Biden's guests was 13-year-old Joshua Davis, that is an advocate for capping the cost of insulin. And Biden says that we can get it down to $35 a month. Joshua and his dad both have type 1 diabetes, and their mission is to advocate and bring awareness for lowering the cost of insulin and other prescription drugs alongside with his father. Second, Biden wants to cut energy costs for families in an average of $500 a year by combating climate change. So let's provide investment tax credits to weatherize your home and businesses to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for that. He's talking about clean energy production and solar, wind, and so much more. So to lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80 a month that we never have to pay the gas pump. The third thing that Biden would like to do is change the standard of living for hardworking folks by changing the cost of childcare, a very popular one. So if you live in a major city in America, you're paying up to $14,000 in a year in childcare. Fourth, we'll continue vaccinating the world. America has sent 475 million vaccines to over 112 countries, something to certainly be proud of. Okay, you guys, for my more progressive audience, this was kind of an eyes wide open moment of the night, and it's actually one of the points of the night that I didn't really care for. I am going to tell you exactly what Biden said. So this is what he said, and I quote, "We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It is to fund the police. Fund them with resources and training. resources and training they need to protect their communities. And, he had his stance on guns, which isn't shocking what he said. It was funny, actually. He said, and folks, ban assault weapons with high capacity magazines that hold up to 100 rounds. He said, you think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests? Well, are they? He also spoke on voting and calling on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act and to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. That has been on the floor. It hasn't gone anywhere. And as I want to say it's shocking, it's not really shocking, but that needs to be passed as soon as possible. He did touch on some of the women issues, talking about Roe v. Wade. Also talked about LGBTQ and the trans community and how he has their back, which is nice and great to hear from a president. He said, if you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect healthcare, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health for all Americans. And for LGBTQ plus Americans, let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to his desk as well. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families is simply wrong. He said that, especially with the younger trans community, I've always had your back as president, so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential. Love it. He also wants to strengthen the Violence Against Women Act that he first wrote 3 decades ago. So it's important for us to show the nation that we can come together and do big things. So one of the things about this presidency is he's very proud of working across the aisle, and he has passed 80 bipartisan legislation into bills last year. That's quite an accomplishment. Biden wants to offer to the nation what he calls a unity agenda. So he thinks there's 4 big things that we all can do together. And number 1, he wants to first beat the opioid epidemic. Second, he wants to take a look at mental health, especially among our children whose lives and education have been turned upside down. The third piece of agenda is to support our veterans. Veterans are the backbone of this country and the spine of this country. They're the best of us. I just want to point out during this piece, for some reason, Laura Boebert again started yelling and screaming just so rudely and heckling. It was just uncalled for. And not to mention, this was literally in the middle of President Joe Biden speaking about his deceased son that is a veteran, Major Beau Biden. And finally, he wants to end cancer as we know it. Of course, it's personal to him. It's personal to the Vice President, Kamala Harris. It's personal to a lot of Americans. So whether you have suffered from cancer yourself or know someone in your friends or family, everyone has been touched by cancer. I thought President Biden did a great job closing out. I'm just going to read you his final thoughts and words. We are the only nation on earth that has always turned a crisis we face into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word, possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I have come to report on the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, as the American people, are strong. Well, folks, that is the end of Biden's first State of the Union address to America. So, okay, a couple things. I thought he did a great job. The speech, especially the strong points, I felt were in Ukraine, giving it, a pretty large chunk of his speech time. I know that they had last minute rewriting, especially the Ukraine piece. So I was really happy about what he said about Ukraine. I think he's always been very clear about the fact that we are not going to have troops in Ukraine. And one thing about Joe Biden is he's very true to his word. He does admit when he makes mistakes, but he means what he says and he says what he means. And I really respect that. Now, as far as that's a hit, Mrs. definitely would be the defund the police part when he said, not only are we not going to defund the police, but we're going to fund the police. That was definitely, my eyes got really large, just put it that way. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, and the American police has historically been set up for white supremacy. And I don't believe giving them more money to do more bad training and have more racist cops on the streets is going to be the solution for it all. So that's my, 2 cents there. Everything else sounds great. I think what he's doing for infrastructure, technology in this country, he's right. We need to get back on track with technology. I just remember growing up and our country just was at a different place. We were so ahead of the curve, and we're certainly behind, especially in infrastructure with being 17th in place. It's just for this country and the amount of wealth that we have is unacceptable. So oh my goodness, thank you guys for watching. And again, if you found this content to be helpful, fun, educational, factual, all the things that I hope to bring to my station and my channel, I hope that you have subscribed by now. Hit that subscribe button. Please share this out to your friends, your family. Oh, I almost forgot, for those waiting for that teaser at the beginning, in 1972, Richard Nixon had the shortest State of the Union speech. It was just 28 minutes and 55 seconds. So go figure. And as always, stay educated, stay fierce, stay honest, and always stay fabulous. Thanks, guys. Bye.